I don't want to remember, but the memory of that summer night in 2008 keeps haunting me. It was just another routine patrol in the Rocky Mountain National Park, but something was off. The air was thick with an eerie silence that seemed to suffocate me. The wind had died down, and the leaves on the trees didn't rustle anymore. The forest was still, as if frozen in time. I had been a park ranger for over a decade and had seen my share of strange things, but this was different. I felt a sense of foreboding, as if something terrible was about to happen. As I walked along the trail, my flashlight flickered and the beam illuminated a ghostly figure in front of me. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light, but as I focused, I saw a hiker standing in front of me. He was wearing a backpack, a blue jacket, and a cap. He looked like any other hiker, but something was off. His face was pale and his eyes were hollow, like he had seen something terrible. I froze, unsure of what to do. I tried to speak, but my voice failed me. The hiker just stood there, staring at me with a blank expression. I was sure I was dreaming or hallucinating, but I knew deep down that this was real. Suddenly, the hiker turned around and started walking away, disappearing into the darkness. I followed him, trying to keep up, but he seemed to be moving faster than any human could. I stumbled over rocks and branches, struggling to keep him in sight. After what seemed like an eternity, I saw the hiker standing on the edge of a cliff. He was looking down at the valley below, and I could hear him muttering something under his breath. I approached him slowly, afraid to startle him. "Sir, are you okay?" I asked. He turned around, and for a brief moment his face lit up with recognition. "Thank God you're here," he said, his voice barely audible. "I've been lost for days." I looked around, confused. "Sir, there's no one else here. It's just you and me." The hiker's face twisted in anguish and he started crying. "I can't find my way out of here. I've been wandering for days and I'm lost." I felt a pang of sympathy for him. "Don't worry, sir. I'll help you find your way back to the trailhead. Just follow me." The hiker nodded and we started walking back. As we walked, I tried to make small talk, asking him about his trip and where he was from, but he didn't answer. He just walked silently, his eyes fixed on the ground. After a while, I looked back, and to my horror, the hiker was gone. I searched the area, calling out his name, but there was no response. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. I reported the incident to the park authorities, but they dismissed it as a hallucination or a trick of the light. But I know what I saw. The hiker's ghost still haunts me to this day, reminding me of the fragility of life and the mysteries of death. Years have passed since that fateful night, but I still patrol the trails of the Rocky Mountain National Park, searching for answers to the mysteries that lie hidden in its depths. And sometimes, when the wind is still and the forest is silent, I hear the faint echo of the hiker's voice calling out to me from the other side. As time went on, I started to learn more about the hiker's story. His name was David, and he was a young man in his early 20s, visiting the park on a solo backpacking trip. He had been missing for several days before his body was finally discovered at the bottom of the cliff he had been standing on when I first saw him. The official report stated that David had accidentally fallen off the cliff, but something about the whole situation never sat right with me. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to the story, something that had gone unnoticed. Over the years, I started to notice other strange occurrences on my patrols, footsteps that seemed to come from nowhere, whispers in the wind that I couldn't quite make out, and sometimes when I was alone, I would see David's ghostly figure again, beckoning me to follow him. I knew I had to find out what had really happened to David, so I started researching his case, talking to other rangers who had been on duty at the time, and digging through old archives. As I delved deeper into the case, I began to uncover evidence that suggested foul play. David's backpack had been found several miles away from his body, and some of his belongings were missing. There were also signs that someone had tampered with the evidence at the scene of the crime. I reported my findings to the authorities, but they refused to reopen the case, citing lack of evidence. But I knew the truth. and I was determined to get justice for David. One night, as I was patrolling the area where David's body had been found, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A group of hikers had set up camp near the cliff where David had died, and I recognized one of them as the man who had been seen with David on the day he disappeared. I approached the group, trying to keep my cool. "Excuse me, folks, can I talk to you for a moment?" The man I recognized as David's companion tensed up, his eyes darting around nervously. "Sure, what's up?" I tried to keep my voice calm. "I couldn't help but notice that you're camping near the site where a young man died a few years ago. Do you know anything about that?" The man shook his head, but I could tell he was lying. "No, we just thought this was a good spot to camp." I pressed on, my heart racing. "Are you sure? Because I have reason to believe that you were with David on the day he disappeared." The man's face turned pale, and he took a step back. "I don't know what you're talking about," he stammered. But I knew he was lying, and as I looked into his eyes, I saw the same hollow expression that I had seen on David's ghostly face years ago. I called for backup, and the man and his group were taken into custody. After a thorough investigation, they were finally charged with David's murder. It was a bittersweet victory for me. I had finally gotten justice for David, but the knowledge that someone could be capable of such cruelty and violence left me with a heavy heart. And even though the ghostly figure of David no longer haunted me, I knew that his memory would stay with me forever. As I continue to patrol the Rocky Mountain National Park, I'm reminded of the fragility of life and the importance of speaking up for those who can no longer speak for themselves. And even though the ghosts of the past still haunt me, I remember the day I found the missing girl in Rocky Mountain National Park. She had been missing for weeks, and we had all but given up hope of finding her alive. But something led me to a remote area of the park, where I stumbled upon her lifeless body. At first, I thought she had died of exposure or dehydration, but something about the scene didn't quite add up. Her body was in pristine condition, as if she had just fallen asleep and never woken up. There were no signs of struggle, no marks on her body, and no indication of foul play. As I examined the scene more closely, I noticed something strange. The girl's eyes were open, and they seemed to be staring right at me. And then, just as I was about to call for backup, I saw her blink. I was stunned. Had I imagined it? Was my mind playing tricks on me? But then, to my horror, the girl sat up, her eyes still fixed on me. I took a step back, my heart pounding in my chest. This couldn't be happening, and yet there she was. A ghostly figure, still wearing the same clothes she had been reported missing in, still staring at me with those empty eyes. I tried to approach her, to speak to her, but she didn't respond. She just sat there, motionless, a ghostly presence in the middle of the wilderness. I was met with disbelief and skepticism as I returned to civilization and reported my discovery. No one believed me when I told them what I had seen. They all assumed that I had hallucinated or that I had been under some sort of stress or duress. But I knew what I had seen. I had found the missing girl, only to discover that she was a ghost, and I knew that I would never be the same again. Over the weeks and months that followed, I couldn't shake the image of the ghostly girl from my mind. I returned to the area where I had found her, hoping to catch another glimpse of her, but she was nowhere to be found. It wasn't until a year later that I finally learned the truth about what had happened to the missing girl. She had been hiking in the park with her family when she had gotten separated from them. As night fell and the temperatures dropped, she had become disoriented and lost. Despite an extensive search effort, no trace of her had ever been found, until I stumbled upon her ghostly form in the wilderness. It was a haunting realization. The missing girl had never left the park, even in death. She was still there, trapped in some sort of limbo, unable to move on to the next life. As a park ranger, I had always believed in the power and majesty of nature. But this experience showed me that there was much more to the wilderness than meeting the eye. It was a place of mystery and wonder where the boundaries between life and death were blurred and the impossible became possible. And as I patrolled the park in the years that followed, I couldn't help but wonder how many other spirits and ghosts were lurking in the shadows, waiting to be discovered. The wilderness had become a place of wonder and terror, a place where the supernatural and the natural converged in unexpected ways. And as I looked out at the vast expanse of Rocky Mountain National Park, I knew that I would always be drawn to its mysteries and secrets, no matter how much they frightened me. I'm a park ranger at Yosemite National Park, and I've seen some strange things in my time here. But nothing quite prepared me for what I encountered one clear and crisp evening. I was finishing up my patrol when I saw something that stopped me in my tracks. There, hovering in the air above the valley, was a creature unlike anything I had ever seen before. It looked like a cross between a bird and a bat, with huge wings that spanned nearly 20 feet across. Its body was covered in shimmering feathers that glowed in the moonlight, and its eyes were a piercing shade of red. I stood there, frozen in awe, as the creature gracefully soared through the air. It moved with a fluidity and grace that seemed almost otherworldly, as if it were not bound by the laws of physics as we know them. As the creature passed over me, I felt a chill run down my spine. I knew that what I was seeing was not of this world, and that I was witnessing something truly paranormal. For several minutes, I watched as the creature soared through the sky, its wings beating with a rhythmic pulse that seemed to fill the air with ethereal energy. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the creature vanished into thin air, leaving me standing there, alone in the darkness. Over the next few days, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had witnessed something truly extraordinary. I tried to rationalize what I had seen, but there was no explanation that could account for the strange and mysterious creature that I had encountered. And then, one day, I received a call from a group of hikers who had seen the same creature that I had. They described it in vivid detail, confirming that what I had seen was not just a figment of my imagination. Together, we began to investigate the paranormal sightings that had been reported throughout the park. We spoke to witnesses, combed through evidence, and searched for any clues that might help us to unravel the mystery of the creature in the sky. And then, one evening, we saw it again. The creature had returned, and it was even more awe-inspiring than before. As it soared above us, we realized that there was something different about it this time. It was as if it were trying to communicate with us, to convey some sort of message that we could not yet understand. For hours we watched as the creature danced through the air, its movements becoming more and more intricate as the night wore on. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, it vanished into thin air once again, leaving us standing there, awestruck and amazed. Over the next few weeks, we continued to study the paranormal sightings in the park, trying to unlock the secrets of the creature in the sky. But no matter how hard we tried, we could not find any answers. And then, one night, as we were discussing the latest sightings, we were approached by a stranger. He claimed to be a scientist, and he said that he had been studying paranormal phenomena for years. Together, we shared our findings with the scientist, and he listened intently, taking copious notes as we spoke. And then, after several hours of discussion, he revealed something that left us all speechless. He explained that the creature that we had been seeing was not of this world, but was in fact a messenger from another dimension. He said that the creature was trying to communicate with us, to show us a glimpse of the paranormal world that lies just beyond our own. For a moment, we were all silent, taking in the enormity of what we had just heard. And then we realized that we had been given a gift, a chance to glimpse into the unknown. With renewed energy and a sense of purpose, we set out to try and communicate with the creature in the sky. We devised a plan to signal to it, hoping that it would understand our intentions. Using a series of lights and flares, we sent a message into the sky, hoping that the creature would understand. And then, as we watched in amazement, the creature returned once again. But this time, it was different. It seemed to be responding to our signals, as if it understood what we were trying to say. For several minutes, the creature danced through the sky, responding to our signals in ways that we could barely comprehend. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, it vanished once again, leaving us standing there, elated and amazed. Over the next few weeks, we continued to communicate with the creature, learning more about its world with each passing day. We shared our findings with the scientific community, hoping to unlock the secrets of this mysterious and otherworldly messenger. And then one day the creature appeared before us once again, this time with a message that we could not ignore. It conveyed to us that there were dark forces at work, threatening the balance of the paranormal world. We knew then that we had been given a great responsibility to protect the fragile balance of the world beyond our own. From that day forward, we devoted ourselves to studying and protecting the paranormal world, working tirelessly to ensure that its secrets remained safe from those who would seek to exploit them. And though we never saw the creature again, we knew that it was still out there, watching over us and guiding us on our journey into the unknown. For we had been given a gift, a glimpse into a world beyond our own, and we would never forget the wonder and amazement that it had brought us.